I've been saying this forever now, but Xbox is going to dominate this next generation. And I really mean that too. You know, it seems like nowadays Xbox just has all of the mind share in the gaming space. Whether I'm going to Xbox related subreddits, PlayStation related subreddits, Nintendo, general, all across the internet, it really does seem like, whether it's Reddit, Twitter, or any social media, Xbox is what everyone in the gaming industry is talking about, and it's for good reason. And let me back up a little bit too. I'm not just some rabid Xbox fanboy who's been on the platform for decades. I actually grew up with a GameCube and a PlayStation, and while I did have a 360 when I was a kid, it was short-lived because that's around the time when I moved on to PC gaming, my favorite platform right now. But it's hard not to look at what Xbox and Microsoft are doing on their platform and how it's going to shake up the industry forever. The value proposition for Xbox right now lies in its services, the same thing that its parent company Microsoft has always relied on. And its services like Xbox Game Pass, cloud across a variety of devices, even your phones or tablets, as well as cross-share and cross-saves that really elevates the Xbox platform above everything else around it. You know, for the first time in the gaming industry's history, we're finally seeing a Netflix model for games flourish, and I think it's only going to get better and better as the generation goes on. I know Xbox has been making a lot of moves recently, but this is only just the beginning. And the thing about their service platforms is that the more money they make, the more they can invest back into the platforms, the more intellectual property they can get, the more services they can improve, and the better and better the entire platform is gonna get. You know, traditionally games were all about just purchasing a game you wanted, owning the game, and then playing it on whatever system you purchased it for. But Xbox is going to radically change that model. And the fact that they aren't leaving behind the idea of you being able to own your games if you want to is great. And I think all in all, what they're proposing is undeniably the future of games. And one of the funniest things I always see people talk about is how Phil Spencer is the reason this is happening. And don't get me wrong, I love Phil Spencer. He's a great leader with great ideas, and he surely is making Xbox a better brand. But these are the types of things that Xbox has been trying to do forever. In the Xbox One generation, when they failed miserably versus Sony, they were talking about a lot of the things today that people love. Always online services, a catalog of services, cloud. They talked a lot about this way back in the day. It's just now their timing's correct. And I think timing is such an important aspect to success. And that's one of the biggest reasons that Xbox is about to dominate. Because they're creating a model at the perfect time where consumers want a model just like this. People have been consuming their movies and television through services like Netflix, and more, it's time for games to move to a similar system, where you can simply pay a small fee every month and get all the games you want. And the only people positioned right now to capitalize on this shifting market is Xbox. And that's more apparent now than ever. Just recently, Xbox Game Pass on day one secured Outriders and MLB The Show, a PlayStation previous exclusive game. And if that doesn't show you how invested and behind the Xbox brand Microsoft is, I don't know what will. In fact, it's moves like this and the recent Bethesda acquisition that have finally convinced me to get a console again. I still love PC as my main platform. The high frames, the amazing graphics, and the customizability is what I love about the platform. But at the end of the day, having a console to just sit out on the couch and game with my girlfriend or friends is fun too. And the reason I chose Xbox over PlayStation for this generation is because of those amazing and awesome services. In fact, I see so many people saying, well, if you can buy Xbox and games on PC, why not just get a PlayStation then? Well, because I love the cross-compatibility. I can pay $15 a month for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and I get all their first-party games on my PC, on my Xbox. On a lot of those, I get cross-play and cross-progression, meaning I can play on my PC on stream, pick up, and then go relax on my couch and pick up right where I left off. It's services like these which are going to expand the gaming industry and be what is the differentiator between these platforms in the future. You know, before it was always about exclusives. Sony had the exclusives. Nintendo had awesome exclusives. But at the end of the day, I think we underestimate how much normal, non-hardcore gamers are actually playing games like this. Almost all of my friends, whether that be college or high school, game on PlayStation. It was the big console last generation, and it assuredly whooped Xbox's ass. But at the end of the day, I don't think I know any of them that play those big, awesome single-player experiences, that being Uncharted, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima. They play Call of Duty, Battlefields, generic standard games that are great on their own right too, but you have to realize that exclusive aren't all that matter. There's gonna come a day where Xbox Game Pass gets Battlefield 6 or the next Call of Duty on its Game Pass service day one. If you don't believe me, go look at all the top leakers that have been leaking everything else, including all the acquisitions like Outriders and MLB, as well as future shows. And there's gonna come a day where that's gonna happen, where Xbox is going to continue to just aggressively buy big third-party AAA games, as well as finally pushing awesome first-party games into their service, especially considering the Bethesda acquisition. And at that time, gamers are going to have to ask themselves whether they want to spend $70 on the new Call of Duty on PlayStation or Nintendo, or if they can just have it for quote-unquote free on a monthly service on Xbox. And you better believe that the second that happens, the tides are going to shift faster than you've ever seen. Because while having mindshare of the consumers is an important aspect, and being the cool brand is important, that'll all be wiped away when it starts affecting your wallet. And even bigger than that, the reason Xbox is so uniquely positioned to capitalize on this newly founded market is because they have no real competition. Let's look at the space besides Xbox. Who are they up against? Sony, Nintendo, assuredly, but also bigger players like Google, Amazon, and Apple, companies that actually have the capital to deploy to compete. So let's look at all of them individually. Well, on Sony's side, Sony actually has a good fair amount of money. They're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I see people saying they can't acquire companies all the time, and that's just false. Sony does have the money to acquire companies, but that's not the important aspect. The important aspect is that if Microsoft and Sony want to acquire a company, well, Microsoft's gonna win. They have more capital to deploy, and in a bidding war, they're going to win. If Microsoft wants to buy a company and they don't want Sony to have it, then they will buy that company. And that's the key differentiator. Sony assuredly could try and match the Xbox Game Pass service by making PS Plus now a little bit better. They could start offering their first-party titles on the service day one, and that would really make a great service instantly. But over time, they wouldn't be able to compete on the bidding wars that are required to secure third-party games day one, as well as buying studios for future first-party. They simply aren't a big enough company to compete. And while that does suck, it's the honest truth. On the Nintendo side, they're just inept. Let's just be honest. Nintendo can't make an online service for the hell of them. They have so many issues with backwards compatibility and charging people. Hashtag Mario is dead. Nintendo is just too inept to actually compete with Microsoft at a service level like this. So that really leaves only the big players that could actually compete with Microsoft. That being the likes of mostly right now Google with Stadia and Amazon with Luna. But here's the thing. Google just started pulling out of their Stadia program. All of the developers are leaving, the heads of studios are leaving, and Amazon Luna doesn't seem like they're doing much at all besides just working on some MMOs and slowly building up. At the end of the day, Xbox and Microsoft are uniquely positioned to capitalize on this new Netflix of games model. And not only that, but this model lacks the problems that the Netflix model has. With Netflix and Disney Plus and HBO and Hulu, the problem with these services is once you acquire the rights to a movie or a TV show and you put it on your service, that's the end of it. You maybe get people subscribing for a certain product, like say The Office, but at the end of the day, that's where the monetization stops. But that's not how it works with games. For example, on Game Pass right now, a lot of the times a third-party game will come on and it'll leave the service 3 to 6 months later. And then those people that fell in love with the game on your service will buy it for full price again, that way they can own it. When DLC products come out, sometimes they aren't on Game Pass, meaning you'll have to shell out $20 in order to get the DLC pack for that free quote-unquote game you were playing for so long. Microtransactions. If EA was willing to make the next FIFA game on Game Pass day one, even though they would be losing out on that huge influx of money from people buying the game full price, they would be getting so many players from the quote-unquote free-to-play model that they might make more money in the long term from those new players buying microtransactions in services like Ultimate Team. And that's what makes Xbox Game Pass and all the services of catalogs around the Xbox brand so goddamn genius. There's no one else in the industry that can even remotely catch up right now. The only one who has a slight chance is PlayStation, and every single day they don't make a more robust service to compete, they're falling behind. Because every day, Xbox Game Pass is getting more and more subscribers. And that means every day they're making more money on the service. And they're in a growth period right now, which means you better believe they're putting all of that money back into buying third-party games day one, new first-party exclusives, buying new studios, and investing in technology to help all their existing teams. At the end of the day, the better Xbox Game Pass does, the better the whole system will get. And the more and more AAA titles we see on day one on Game Pass, the more money people will invest into the platforms and the more money they'll have to then go do the same next year. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy and an amazing business model where the competition can't even compete, and it's even better than the model it's based on, that being Netflix, because of microtransactions and just the industry of gaming and how easy it is to milk money from all of the gamers out there, especially on free-to-play quote-unquote games. This is a vision that Microsoft has had for its Xbox brand for a while now, even long before Phil Spencer took the reins. And while he has driven this cart in an absolutely perfect direction so far and is an immaculate leader, it's the service-oriented architecture of Microsoft themselves and the forward-thinkingness that they have within their leadership and teams that's going to assuredly win them this next generation. And more, every single day that becomes apparent. Before, people were saying Xbox has no games, and when they bought Bethesda, we don't hear about that much anymore. Before, they were saying that Xbox would never get big third-party games in the service, but now they have MLB The Show, a Sony previous exclusive, as well as Outriders, and rumors are everywhere that they're going to be getting a lot more, looking at Call of Duty and Battlefield 6. And every single day, the media attention that Xbox is getting greater and greater. When I go to the games subreddit, all I see is Xbox posts. When I go to the gaming leaks subreddit, all the hype and leaks are about Xbox events. And you know what? It's not even that PlayStation and Nintendo are just sleeping at the wheel. It's that Xbox, as I said before, is uniquely positioned to capitalize on this new service model for games, a model that I truly believe is going to be the future. A model where, yes, you can still buy and own your games, but let's be real here. For 90% of the audience, especially younger kids growing up nowadays that haven't owned a thing in their life, they aren't going to care. They'd rather spend $10 a month and get all the backwards old compatible games, all the new games coming out, and a ton of awesome third-party games like Battlefield potentially coming to the service day one. That way, they end up spending all of their money instead on microtransactions. Exactly what all these big companies want, where they make their real money anyways. At the end of the day, the Xbox brand is the future of gaming. And it's funny because it always feels like the gaming industry goes in these waves. You know, the PlayStation 3 had a hard time, but the PlayStation 4 was amazing. The Xbox One was a catastrophic failure in a lot of ways. But now the new Xbox Series X, their cloud platforms, their services on PC are all coming together to make an amazing platform. You know, I didn't buy into Xbox because I thought their current exclusives were better than Sony. I wanted to play some games I hadn't caught up on, like Uncharted and Ghost of Tsushima on the next-gen PlayStation, and I almost bought it because of that. But the reason I got the Xbox is because I could see where they were taking their brand. I wanted to be able to spend $15 a month and get all their games on PC, my preferred platform, and Xbox, the console I'm gonna use sometimes in the living room. And on top of that, I'll be able to use cloud services, backwards compatibility, 60 FPS boost, and an awesome, in my opinion, UI, quick resume. Everything Xbox is doing is tailor-made for a hardcore and casual gamer. And while a lot of people haven't quite seen the shift yet, and a lot of people have, Xbox is going to take over the gaming industry, and they're going to make waves. And I guarantee you, by the end of this next generation, if Xbox is not at the top, it's only because of them to blame. Their competition is simply too far behind. There's not enough studios for big studios to buy, like Amazon and Google. For example, buying Rockstar would get you one game every decade, and that wouldn't be enough. They already bought Bethesda, the best publisher to buy. They have so many underrated games that could do amazing on a Game Pass model, like Arcane Studios. Go watch my last video if you want to see a little bit about them. At the end of the day, it's so exciting to be behind the Xbox brand. They're so forward-thinking, they have no competition, and like I said, the only thing that can stop them is themselves. But we've seen them do it before, and it is hard to predict what exactly is going to happen in the next decade. But I can guarantee you that what Xbox is doing in the industry is going to make everyone else change, not the other way around. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. And as always, if you want to see more content about gaming reviews and deep dives, things about Xbox and their future, or just my opinions on certain topics, definitely subscribe to the channel or go check me out on my Twitch channel. I love talking about things there as well. And as always, guys, I'll see you next time.